It's your boy Scandoose, the hip hop original, and we're here for the one and only head-to-head interview series. This is season 2, episode number 8. And now this is the part usually where I freestyle a bunch of adjectives around the particular guest that we have. But this one, our guest tonight, his reputation precedes him. And yeah, during my research, I managed to find a lot of tags that come along with the name. So we've got the UK sneaker ambassador, cultural creator, independent brand consultant, and most importantly, the sneaker connoisseur, the one and only Kentish Town's finest, Kish Kash. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yo, Scan, pleasure to be here, man. Do you know what I mean? And wow, that's some intro, mate. Do you know what I mean? I hope I live up to it. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, man, it's blessed to be up here. And you know what's mad? You said I'm episode 8, and the thing is, my birthday is the 8th of the 8th. So the numerics are like, boom.
There you go, man. It was meant to be. It was meant to be, man. Incredible, man. Yeah, so definitely thank you for joining us this evening, man. And like I said, you're a man of many talents, and you know, some consider, you know, one of the top sneaker archivists? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Archivists in the world, right?
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, that's a big look. That's a big look.
That's a huge look, man.
If you're saying that, wicked, but I'm not going to say that myself, you know. But
okay.
You know, but it's you know, that's a big look. I'm very, very humbled by that. Thank you.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, me and sneakers, man. It's all from hip hop. You know, hip hop and football. You know,
yeah, man. So let's get back to the start, because we're a hip hop platform, man. The question that we usually kick off with, man, is how did you find yourself in hip hop culture? Where did it begin for you?
Oh, for me, since I was a shorty, since day one, since like when I was hearing like on the radio, you'd hear the message, and it was like, well, what is this? And then you'd start seeing some footage. And basically back then when I was mad young, you know, everything was different. Now we got computers, we got laptops, we're conversing like this. But when I was, it was about knowledge that was passed on down from the generations or from your mates, and they were getting it from their elders. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's just it's like all the scenes back then. You know, the two-tone scene. It was a very mixed sort of thing going on, and it was exciting times. But we didn't realize what we were in. We were just living it. You know, there was no deliberate conceit to go, hey, if I do this and I do this, then I'm going to get X. We were just loving what we were into, and still do. That's what I'm about. I mean, you know, when you saw like, you know, people spraying up graffiti, or you go up on the train to London, you know, because I'm from Aylesbury originally, right, which is just outside of London, and now I live in Kentish Town. I've been in Kentish Town like what 21 years or whatever, but basically, yeah, coming up from Aylesbury and the whole scene around Aylesbury as well, where I was growing up, and it was mad. It was a very nascent time. It was exciting, and you had all these different like little tribes going on of different styles. You had the football casuals. So casual culture, sort of, you know, Aylesbury's a small town, so they've got Aylesbury United, the football team, but it's not like, you know, Man United. It's not like Arsenal. It's not like Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? Or Liverpool and that. So those are the sort of the football teams that we supported, with the bigger teams, obviously. But terrace culture didn't exist here, but the look of casuals existed here, just like everything else did. You know, you had your mod, you had your rockers, and then you had, you know, your two-tone, you had your reggae, and boom, and so on and so forth. And hip-hop with this new thing. And the mad thing about hip-hop when I was growing up, it was the way that we reinterpreted the styles that were coming out from the States, from photographs, from videos, you know, or films, I should say, really, because videos didn't really kick off until, you know, like the early 80s, really. It was a tight time. And also seeing maybe things on Top of the Pops or some other cultural programs and the news even. But I mean, it was a mad one. I'm trying to remember exactly how, but you know, it was a crazy thing. And then you'd sort of emulate stuff, and then it was like Bambaataa, you know, Planet Rock, another game changer. You know, and then you'd hear Curtis Blow, and then you'd hear all the others, do you know what I mean, coming into the realm of Treacherous 3 and all that kind of stuff via tapes and via the Electro series as well. Got to shout out Morgan Khan, right, who's a legend in the game, because he really cemented the foundation for virtually everybody in this country of a certain age, and that was the foundation right there, and that's what everyone built upon. And then Electro moved into the hip hop series after that, which featured some dope artwork. I think the Chrome Angels did the artwork. I can't remember, but you know, it was dope. But then stuff started to get, you know, you started seeing more of it on TV, and you see it more, you know, on, you know, and back then there was only 3 channels. I'll go way back. There's only 3 channels. Channel 4 didn't even exist. Channel 4 came in just to the get, and then you have the alternative programming, which came subsequently after. But the thing is, the whole electro thing, you had the, you know, people doing like different things. So you'd like be popping, or you'd be breaking, or you'd be locking. Do you know what I mean? Or you do the robot, and robot extended from that whole popping and locking thing. And yeah, it was a mad time. And then you saw the films. You saw the films Wild Style. You saw Breaking. You saw Beat Street. And then you just, mind was blown. Seriously. And you saw that moment in Flashdance when Jennifer Beals comes across the kids breaking and popping, and you're just like, whoa. And by that time, we already knew what was up. And the thing is, I remember a guy called Scott Bateman came into class with a video, and I don't know where he got the video from, but video was like was the currency, right? It was like the, you know, the Bitcoin of then. You had footage on a video. You was the dude. Do you know what I mean? Because you held the knowledge. And he had footage. Where he got it from, I don't know, but he had footage of breaking and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it was Michael Holman, you know, the Michael Holman shows. I don't know. He just had footage. And that whole Malcolm McLaren thing as well. So Malcolm McLaren has to get props, because he also brought, you know, helped bring hip hop to the fore. But back then, it wasn't called hip hop. Hip hop didn't come into the terminology until around 82. Before then, it was like you was rapping, you was writing, or you was beatboxing, or you was breaking. Do you know what I mean? Or you was DJing, right? But back then, it didn't become termed hip hop until around 82. That's the mad thing. So that was all going on. The styles that we were going off, you know, we were making Nike Windrunner jackets. Puma Dallas was a big look. You know, the footwear was on point. You had to dress the part. But the thing is, we flipped it up as well. So we worked with Stay Press or with waffle trousers, and those were staples from mod culture, right? And also from Two Tone. So there's the whole collision thing going on, you know, with the whole styles and everything being very embryonic. So we'd pattern things up differently to how the States were doing it, on a similar line, but differently. And also the thing is, you know, channeling what was going on here. And also remember football, because that's what we were playing on the street, even before you know, what rapping and everything came to the fore. So the thing is, we were wearing you know, people would be wearing trainers on their feet to have a kickabout in the street. And also because the football casuals were wearing them as well. So the thing is, what everyone doesn't realize is the football casuals were the first movement that, you know, was concerned about dressing up, you know, peacocking and stunting, as we refer to it now, with trainers, you know. So that's the mad thing, you know. So it was a crazy time, and just like coming in, and then I was buying the records, and all my mates were like busting up, you know. My boy Gary Cartwright, rest in peace, who passed away last year. He was the one who dubbed off the electro vinyls onto tape for me. Basically, you know, my boy Gary Cartwright, who passed away last year, you know, God rest his soul, gone far too early. He was the guy who got the electro vinyls, and he dubbed them onto tape, because at that point I didn't have a turntable, and I had a tape deck. So that's how I got the electros. That's how I got the Roxanne Shante tracks. All that kind of stuff was because of him and Trevor Bateman, who I grew up with. And it was a mad time. We'd go down the Ducks as well, which was this place just outside Woolworths in Friars Square, which was the shopping centre at the time. And people would throw down the lino and just break and pop there. And it was a mad time. And then, yeah, it was just crazy sort of experiences, and just being involved in the moment. And then I'd start skating later on, and, you know, be listening to hip hop while skating. And, you know, I remember Run DMC, right? Run DMC, Walk This Way, seminal moment, right? That was a watershed moment. That is literally where you just put a big footnote in history as a milestone moment, when they teamed up with Aerosmith, and it was just like boom, and it just took everything beyond. And the whole rhyming style that they did, and the whole look, it was in complete contrast to your Curtis Blows, in complete contrast to your Kool Moe Dees.
Yeah.
They were old. That's what they refer to old school as being pre-run DMC. That's what old school is back then. Now the goalposts have moved, but your old school hip hop, when you're looking at it, your whole disco rap, that all stopped right there. And then when Run DMC came in, it was like boom, and then you just like talking to your peeps, and LL Cool J comes through, right? And then so on and so forth, from Rakim and Kane and Ultramagnetic and Jungle Brothers and all that kind of stuff. And then you had De La Soul, and you had all these different styles of music at the same time, but everything of a pedigree. And then Public Enemy, and then it was just
so just to backtrack slightly, man. What would you say were like the first trainers that you remember wearing? Like,
me. Wow.
That stood out to you.
Okay, so the thing is, I had family in the States, and so I would travel in the summer holidays to the States to see my mum's sisters, and my mum's sister at the time, or my mum's brother in Canada. So I would go and I would see things that I hadn't seen here. And I remember coming back one time, I think it was in the middle school, and I had my first pair of Nikes. No one knew what Nikes were back then. I think Nike only just started to get distributed over here, and only in certain stores. Now we're in Aylesbury, right? Yeah. We'd seen what a Nike swoosh looked like, on a Rocksteady crew, on Hey You the Rocksteady crew, 12-inch, and some footage as well that you'd see. But Adidas ruled, and Puma ruled, and they were accessible here. You see, that's the key thing. And football casuals, what did they wear? They wore Adidas, and they wore Puma, and they wore other brands as well, but Diadoras and all that kind of stuff. Because you got to remember, back then, the biggest sports stars on the planet were tennis stars, right? Because tennis was transmitted, on terrestrial TV. Didn't have to pay for it. You couldn't watch basketball over here, right? Football, again, you'd only watch it on Match of the Day. But football, what are footballers wearing? They're wearing football boots. So you ain't wearing football boots walking around, are you? Right? So the thing is, and what football casuals were wearing tennis shoes. They were wearing, they'd be wearing Ilianatazis, they'd be wearing Rod Lavers, or they'd be wearing basketball shoes, not knowing that, shell toes and all that kind of stuff. A little bit after, right? Yeah. Because of Run DMC, and just prior to that. But Gazelles were a staple. Gazelles were a staple for the football casuals as well as for the B-boys. They were light. You could dance in them. You could break in them. So you needed something that you could break in. As well as if you're spraying up graffiti, something you could really run really fast in. Do you know what I mean? If you had to run the line real quick and BTP run you or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the thing is, you'd be looking at Gazelles, you'd be looking at Puma Dallas, you'd be looking at Puma Suedes, what we call Puma States, because that's how they were branded over here, Puma States, because they came from the States, whatever. And things like that. Those are the key shoes. But when I came back from my holidays wearing a pair of Nikes, I had people bugging out. I don't even know where those shoes are anymore. They've got to be here somewhere, because my mum has a habit of not throwing anything out. Trust. Wow. It's like a time machine. Do you know what I mean? With my parents, right? But those are the flavors. Those are the flavors that dropped really, really hard back then. And then things started to develop, quite crazily, really. There was things I would want to go to the States, and I'd be like going, I've seen these shoes on this video. I need to find out where they are. And because I was going to Houston, and because I was going to Winnipeg in Canada, my cousins were younger than me. So the thing is, I was reliant upon my, auntie and uncle. I'd go through the phone book trying to find sports stores to hit. But sometimes I'd be going, I ain't driving that far, or I ain't going that far. We'll go to the mall. And if I go to the mall, I'd find some stuff, and I'd just be like, okay, cool. I remember when I really stunted. It was the first time. It was it must have been '87. I was in Winnipeg, and I came back with the first cross trainer that Tinker Hatfield designed, and it was before the Air Trainer 1, right? So the Air Trainer 1, for those who don't know, is the shoe that Cash Money wears. Oh crikey, what's the 12? It's either, it's with him when he's with Marvelous, and he's got his foot on the deck, or he's got his foot up, and it's like it's what they refer to as the chlorophylls, which is the white, grey, and green Air Trainers with strap. Now straps became a big thing, in the sort of mid to late 80s, because you'd wear the straps undone.
Yeah.
it'd be like hard flex. You wear the shoes really wide, and shoes start getting bigger and bigger tongues. And you've got to kind of blame Flavor Flav for that. But it's like, it's like that sort of thing was going on right there, making sure, you look really, really fat. But yeah, straps are a big thing. I think you could probably say the strap thing probably started with the Adidas Forum, which came out in '84, but they were impossible for me to find here. I don't remember ever seeing an Adidas Forum in this country. I think some of my friends had them. I don't know where they got them from. And that was at the stage where people wouldn't reveal their spots. You know what I mean? If you had a spot, you didn't let people know. You wanted to keep that to yourself. So, because it's all about being unique, and you rocking something that no one else had. That's what it was. And you being the first to rock it as well. That was the key prerequisites of everything, of style. You had to be ahead. You had to be number one. Not number two, not number three. You had to be number one. So the thing is, I was learning that. So the thing is, I came back with these.
So did you have any? So you mentioned like some of the things that you saw on the TV and that, but did you have any like people in your life that you looked up to, or people in the scene at the time that you looked up to, who were like kind of like leaders in style?
Well, this is a thing that didn't really happen till a little bit after. I was just on my own lane, which is quite mad, right? I'd read skate magazines. I'd be looking at skate magazines. I see Airwalks and all that kind of stuff. And there was some high tops in there and all that kind of thing. I remember Vans, wanting a pair of Vans like crazy as a kid. You couldn't find Vans here in Aylesbury. And then you'd have to go to certain spots in London. But when I was going to London, there's only certain spots that, that I'd be hitting at that point. But my knowledge grew and grew and grew. I'd just be running around the city. I would just be going wherever. I mean, my first trip to Portobello, was 80 something. And that's because Slam City Skates was there on Talbot Road. And meanwhile, the skate ramp was there, but I never went there because that's the place where you could get taxed if you went for round ends. And I didn't know too many people around there. Now that area, I know so many people around that area. It's so funny. But so I went to Slam City, and I got my my Pal Peralta decks. I didn't get Pal actually. I got a Sims deck. I got and then anyway, the decks that I had when I was skating. So the thing is, I'd be going up Portobello, and also there's a comic shop on Portobello called the Fantastic Store that I check. But yeah, and this is when Slam City was in the basement of Rough Trade in Talbot Road. Right. And I'll tell you, West London, everywhere was hood. It was like the Wild West back then. Do you know what I mean? People get you whatever. If you weren't looking at people would come at you. Luckily, I was all right in that regard. Somehow, I was pretty good. I was just bombing around doing my thing, and coming from Aylesbury to Portobello as well. It wasn't that easy. You had to go around the houses to get to it. Yeah. But I got to know real quick, and then I'd also be going to Central. I'd be going to Central, and I'd be checking out spots, and I'd just be running around and going to Camden. So the thing is, I think it was 86. I came back with an Air Trainer, which had people bugging out. Then the next year, I went on holiday. I came back with an Air Trainer 1. So I was the first dude having Air Trainer 1s. I think, and I was skating in them as well. So I ragged them hard.
So when you say skating, we talking rollers or we talking skateboards?
I never roller skated. No, some of my friends roller skated. They could do all that stuff. They'd go roller disco. They'd do that roller-rama, all that kind of stuff. But now I was skateboarding. And then 88 was when I came back with the Air Trainer SC. Now, the Air Trainer SC is what everyone now refers to as the Air Trainer 3, because Nike did some silly like retro retcon sort of business, revisionist history with their model names for some reason. So the Air Trainer SC, as it was called, and that was the white with the sort of gold, sort of brown beige with the navy, right? Everyone, and they called them the medicine balls, because that sort of brownie sort of stuff is like medicine ball color. And those are the ones that Spike Lee is wearing in Do the Right Thing when he's playing, when he's, you know what I mean, right? Yeah. So when he's got the baseball top and you see his shoes, it's those ones, right? Okay. So I had those first in this country. Everyone was bugging out, because when I was walking around London, people would be going like, "Yo, where you got those?" They're like, "What are those?" Like that. I didn't get jack for them. I was good. But the thing is, it's like everyone was like, "Well, what you got?" And the thing is, by that time, I was hanging out with my boy Robbie, right, and the whole crew, like Matty B, rest in peace, Juanito, Priesty, all these people, because Robbie was the principal in Caveman, right? He was the producer, right? And everyone was up on early. Conrad, my boy Conrad, so he was coming through. He became MC for Bookham, so he's MC, LTJ Bookham and Conrad. That's Conrad. He's like a year younger, but he was He was originally in a group called Triple Element as well with Silver Bullet. And Luggy produced Silver Bullet, and so did Les Alert, my boys. And the thing is, I got to know them after, because I worked with Les at a Mexican restaurant. But anyway, that's we're going off on tangents right there. That was in the early 90s. So the thing is,
so would you say was that like the origin of sneaker culture in the UK, do you reckon, around that time? Or
I mean, no, I think sneaker culture, that's what I said, it existed with the football casuals in the 70s.
Okay, right.
Just took it, but the thing is, we took it to where we took it, and we, how whole style, and the unique thing about the UK being such a style trendsetter, being at the apex of everything, is taking stuff and flipping it up, or already having stuff and remixing it and put it into a whole new context.
Right.
That's the thing, and it's like putting a flex on it. The pin rolls that came later, Chippy, C17, Chevignon, all the French brands that we rock. Then we're rocking Italian sportswear brands because the football casuals are doing it, and because they're expensive if you could get them and if you could afford them. So if you could wear Fila back then, Fila's cheap now, but back then in the 70s and 80s, Fila was top line because the tennis stars were wearing them. Lacoste, top line. Diadora, top line. Right? Everything a little bit under. That's why the Americans started wearing that stuff, because it was like more money. That's why the drug dealers started wearing it. And if the D-boys are wearing it, then the rappers wanted to wear it. So that's why that's why I was all flossing. Oh yeah, forgot, going back. Tennis stars were the biggest sports stars, because the thing is, so everyone wore tennis shoes. That's why, if Bjorn Borg's Diodoras were like top line, the gold stripe, with a signature on it in kangaroo skin leather, everyone was bugging out. It was a mad time. That's why Ilan Tazis were mad flavor. Rod Lavers were mad flavor. Stan Smiths, even before that, those were the shoes. And then everything else came into patterned in, the basketball shoes, when they started getting a little bit more distributed, and runners. We've been, Europe's known for, being a runner capital. Do you know what I mean? It's where you wear your runners. And it's a mad thing. So, and then when normal other styles started coming through, as I was saying, like the Air Trainer SC, and then then the big one for me. So Robbie, right? So let's go back to how we were in the Aylesbury, and we got this little pocket, and this little pocket is a head, right? It's remarkable in terms of brakes, right?
Yeah.
The brakes that Robbie had, right? Because he got rid of his records years ago when he turned to Islam. But the thing is, the records he had, the brakes he had, what he was sampling back then was a head. He even had people like MC Bello, right? Talk to Bello from Outlaw Posse. They were trading breaks. Talk to, I think he was trading bits with KG and Bello and all this kind of stuff. So he got in, and he was going to New Music Seminar. I think he first went to New Music Seminar. Jordan 3s. It must have been 88. He must have gone to New York in 88. Just got on a plane and jumped to New York because he was into his hip hop. I didn't know this because I was playing football with him at school, and I didn't know he was mad into his hip hop like that. The other dudes did, right? Yeah. But I wasn't aware. I was just like, I was just undercover with it, and then we was talking, and everyone started talking about, oh, you heard the new Rakim record and blah blah blah, and you start hearing, okay, hold on, this thing is like it's a little bit bigger than this sort of microcosm thing. Do you know what I mean? And the one transition is when I went from middle school to secondary school. That was the whole thing, and that's when after that, everything was hip hop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the? I mean, obviously you're a DJ now, but what would you say is the first element of hip hop you really gravitated to?
Oh, the rapping. I heard the rap first. Everyone heard the rap first. So what is this? Speaking over a beat, chatting in a rhythmic pattern over a beat. Mad. Do you know what I mean? That was the first thing. Then everything was
you rhyming back then, or
no, I've never rhymed.
Oh, okay.
Never rhymed. Yeah. Never had the confidence to do that. Do you know what I mean? That's a special set. That's a special skill in itself.
What about
breaking? I was terrible at. You got to be super athletic, and you got to have a real good upper body strength. I mean, I'm strong, but not like that. It was, and you got to be flexible. You got to move. The thing is that I was popping, and I was locking and all that. That's what I was doing. And BMXing badly. But anyway, that's the thing. The thing is, you can only get as good as the people who you're with. Yeah. You need to find people who are better and better. And if you're in Aylesbury, you're only going to get so good. You got to go out and you got to challenge yourself. and you got to keep on going. That's what Robbie did. So when he went to New York and he came out with his beat tapes, boom, 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 and then he was doing these beats, and then Caveman formed because Mark Lehman was in High Wycombe, and I think they got introduced by a mutual friend, I don't know who, and then Robbie I got these beats, and then Robbie's DJ partner when they were called the Academy was Mark Priest, and he called himself DJ Messiah back then. A bit controversial now, maybe, but anyway, he called himself DJ Messiah, and they used to DJ at parties. So I remember I never went, but Robbie and Mark went, and they DJ'd and supported Queen Latifah and all that kind of stuff. They were getting some gigs on it early somehow, and networking in a way that I wasn't aware of. But I guess again, became super aware of it. The mad thing was when Robbie came back from New Music Seminar in 1988, he had the black Jordan 3s on. People lost their minds. One of the most beautiful shoes still to this day, right? And at that time, and I was wearing the Medicine Ball Air Trainer 3s, and it was just like that whole moment. You know what I mean? And then I started getting tighter with Robbie on after school, and I'd be hanging out in his bedroom when he showed me. I bought his Akai S900 off him, right? And that's stored away. But that's an heirloom right there, because he made all of Caveman stuff on that. He made all of MCD stuff on that when he was Silent Eclipse, the Damned EP. So he was making everything on that, and I was hanging in his bedroom. We were going through breaks. We'd go break hunting together. He'd go break hunting with a few people, and we'd go digging for breaks. That was a good thing. And I was digging for hip hop vinyl, and I was trying to get as much as possible. And then just like you just had to be on it. And then I was going up London, and I was going up to London on my own as well. And I was hunting around. I was going wherever. I remember going to Honest John's on Portobello, way on the early. I remember going to Unity Records when it was just after when it was Red Records, and it turned to Unity Records. That was on Beak Street. Then Catch a Groove opened up after that. Mr. Bongo opened up after that. Going to Solar Records in Brixton. I didn't go to Red Records in Brixton for some reason. I don't know why. It was there over the road, but I just never went in. I don't think I needed to go in because I knew exactly what had come out. Groove Records as well, which is a seminal spot. Everyone talks about Groove. They had everything. It's crazy. It's a mad one, that story. And then all these record stores. And the thing is, when you go to these record stores and the clothing stores as well. I got a Utopia in Camden. I went to Soul to Soul store once in Camden, but I thought it was a bit cheesy and corny. It wasn't really my flex. But it was one of them things. It's kind of, I think, I don't know, crew rivalry, should we say? Love Soul to Soul. But the thing is, you're down with Caveman, you're down with Caveman, right? Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be wearing Soul to Soul if you're with Caveman. No disrespect. We'll play the music. We'll give due reverence to Jazzy B and Jazzy, Jazzy Q and the whole lot. Do you know what I mean? And Karen Wheeler. But it was a bit like, okay, cool. We got to rep our team. Do you know what I mean? Well, that's how I was anyway. So you got a chippy just just off Longacre. In Covent Garden, you got a chippy down Kings Road. You go down Kings Road and you go check American Classics. Go check American Classics in Covent Garden. You go check my boy Simon Porter at that time. He was in the place called the Garage, the Bluebird Garage, and it was like Kensington Market, High Street Kensington Market was another spot, all like different stalls, etc., full of all the stuff. And rave culture started happening as well at the same time, which all sort of collided, and it was just a little bit of madness. Do you know what I mean? But being in the bedroom, man, when Robbie was making his stuff. Oh, mate, I'm telling you, he had the Atari 1040 ST, and he'd queue up and everything, boom, boom, on Cubase. So it was just like, boom, like that. And then I remember after that, so I'm going on mad tangents, my boy Les Alert, who used to produce for Bullet, he bought an 808. He'd bought an 808 and he bought some other equipment, and he was messing around with stuff like that. And that was the one piece of equipment that I should have bought back then, because when he gave up making music, because he turned to Islam as well, he's offered me the 808 to buy it.
Yeah,
I think he only wanted £200 for it or something like that. But £200 back then was like, whoa, something like having 2K or something like that. And I passed. And now that machine, you can't find it. And it's probably worth about 5-6K. But anyway, it was the 808 that he produced. I think, did him and Luggy produce 20 Seconds to Comply on that? I can't remember. Or Bring Forth the Guillotine. I can't remember. But yeah, that was a mad one. But Bullet got signed to Tam Tam because there's a kid called Jai who was older than me, and he was down with what was called the Ellsbury Posse, who was like, actually, I'm going to go into that in a second, the Ellsbury Posse. And he was working at Tam Tam, which is a subsidiary at the time of CBS, and CBS was based in Aylesbury. The manufacturing arm and the whole logistical arm, etc., was there in the industrial estate. And I think that's how that happened, and they made all that stuff. But it was a crazy time, man. You just had to be up on your game. You had to be up on your game. I remember going to jams with Robbie because Westwood was all over him, and Caveman and Giles Peterson was, and we'll go. You know, they went to Dance Wicked at Dingwalls. I didn't go because I was too young. But then I ended up going to Talking Loud in Camden when it was at the Underworld, seeing like Incognito live, seeing Omar live. And Giles Peterson being all over Robbie, blah, 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 like that. I mean, we were just their entourage. I mean, we were no one. I mean, it's just so funny. Seeing things like that. And going to various gigs, going to Westwood gigs and all that kind of stuff. You know, we were listed up, which was a trip.
Right. Was you Kish Kash at the time, or that name that's always been with you?
Okay, so Robbie's DJ partner, right, DJ Messiah, Mark Priest, he called me Kish Kash Money. Right, goes, yo, Kish Kash Money, like that, and then we just abbreviated to Kish Kash, and that was around that time as well. Yeah. So I've been Kish Kash for a long minute. So yeah, I got to give Mark Priest. Always gets big ups. His Adidas game, he's only ever worn Adidas because he loved Run DMC. He loves to Run DMC, right? His Adidas game was off the chain. He had forums. He had Adidas rivalries. He had these shell toes, which has never been. He had stuff. He still got it somewhere, right? He had Adidas. He had the Adidas A jacket that I think one of the Beastie Boys wears, and I think Jam Master Jay wore. He had the leather Adidas Run DMC jackets, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So he was up on it. Do you know what I mean? Everyone had to have flavor. But the thing is, okay, so I mentioned Silver Bullet. So when I was working at McDonald's in Aylesbury, Silver Bullet used to hang out in the McDonald's that I was working at. It was a big deal with McDonald's in Aylesbury because before then there was actually nothing. I mean, this was the advent. KFC just opened up, and then McDonald's opened up, and it was like, oh my God, we've made it. And this Spud You Like, and all these other spots. I mean, it was a mad one. But had to be up on your game. Had to know what's up on the breaks. Going break digging, going sneaker hunting. You know what I mean? Just making sure we were ahead. And the thing is, I really do think that our little crew was ahead because. One way I can describe it, Normski took a picture of Silver Bullet, right, with a whole crew, right, in front of the Lloyd's building. It's a seminal photo, right? There's a whole crew. I don't know, you must know the one where it's Bullet and Mo, and then there's a whole crew around him. That whole crew is Aylesbury, because Bullet was from Leighton Buzzard and he used to hang out in Aylesbury, right? I can't remember when DJ Mo was from. The video for 21 Seconds to Comply. No, Bring Forth the Guillotine. I think they're in the woods. The woods is is Wendover Woods, just up the thing when they're doing the Running Man and they're doing all the moves, etc. You got boy Gerald in there. You got Kingy in there. You got Paddy. You got Errol. I mean, I think Conrad was in there as well. Actually, I think Conrad was in it. Before he went to the rave and met Bookham, and it all he went on that whole drum and bass thing. Do you know what I mean? But we were on the early in every aspect, even on the drum and bass when it was jungle, right? Yeah. It's a mad thing, and we patterned our look, we finessed our look hard. Do you know what I mean? And if you see that, if you go back to that photo that Normski took, I think it's my favorite photo of Normski, not because it's who's in it, but what it symbolizes about the British scene at the time. When you see the Air Max 9, the Air Max 3s at the time being rocked, or the ZX 8000s, you see that crew. You got Rowan, rest in peace, wearing a starter jackets for the flex. They're really hard to get. You got boy Kingy's, I can't remember who's got the Orlando Magic one, but they all, they're all dripping. I mean, all hard, all look on point, and that was the levels. And when you see, if we go back and see pictures of Robbie wearing his Jordan 3s and me wearing black Jordan 4s, I came back with a black Jordan 4s from going back to the States, and came back, and I was walking around London in black Jordan 4s. Jordan 4s hadn't even come out, and everyone's going, "What have you got on your feet?" Do you know what I mean? Like that. Yeah, it was a trip. And I met one of my homies to this day, Juanito, through that shoe, because when he started at my school, because it was after the summer holidays, always go to America or Canada in the summer holidays, come back. I was wearing a black Jordan 4s first day of school, so we had to wear school uniform, but I just wanted to wear sneakers, yeah. And I had the black Jordan 4s on because they were black, and I could kind of get away with it, like looking like shoes, because the you know, because they were black, the school teachers weren't looking at them too close. You know what I mean? So I kind of got away, and we met over those shoes. It was mad. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
So would you say even from school, did you have like a clear vision in mind of what you was really into and what you was passionate about in terms of where you were going to go in life?
No clue where we're going to go. I'm just like, you know, how Bruce Lee said, be like water. And you just got to be like water. You just go with the flow. And that's how it is to even to this day. We're just into it, and we're just doing stuff that we like, and we're very fortunate. I wasn't able to make a living off it until way later. But you know, going to the record stores, getting pally with all the record store staff, you know, and just being able to get the promos or get the early on. And it was, you know, that's how it had to be. You know, it was a real sort of, you know, thing. You know, no one was just going, hey, here you go, here's the latest record. No, you had to know. You had to be on a certain level to get ahead. It's, you know, it's the thing, and it's the same with the spots. You know, you went going to Wood Green in like 90, going to Mr. USA. Who's going to Wood Green? Yeah, who's going to Wood Green from outside of London? Well, we were going to Wood Green in London. You know what I mean? That's the thing. We didn't care where we were going. We would just go. You know, and that was the thing. And these are areas that some people will go, oh, you went there back then? And I was like, well, yeah, we went there. We went everywhere, really. I was in Tooting in 93. I was hanging out in Liberty Grooves. That's where I met Ted and Shorty and Ty, may you rest in peace. It's where I met the Brotherhood. It's where I met Mark B, may you rest in peace. Where I met Julian the Creators. It's where I met, you know, so many people. It's where I met Remy Ruff. Do you know what I mean? So the thing is, it's like, you know, that kind of thing. And that came off, actually, me going to Liberty Grooves came off going to Monroe. So I was in the bedroom when we were chatting. Robbie and I were chatting. So the principal and I were chatting, and he left Caveman. He'd left Caveman. He goes, I've got to get out. I've got to get out. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. But what had happened, one thing that had happened was originally Mark, DJ Messiah, was meant to be the original DJ of Caveman. So it was meant to be Robbie, Mark, and other Mark Lehman, MCM. But what happened was the deal, which was groundbreaking at the time, it was the first time a hip hop group had ever been signed to a major, which is Profile Records, home of Run DMC, Special Ed, etc., right? You know what I mean? So it was major league, right? So what had happened was only the Profile Records had only signed the rapper and the producer. They wouldn't sign the DJ. So the thing is, Mark was like, nah, forget that. I'm leaving the group. I'm quitting the group. And that's when MCM's boy Julian came in, Diamond J came in, and he became the new DJ for Caveman. All right, so that's what that was all going on at the time. So you had Silver Bullet, you had Caveman, and this is all from Aylesbury and around Aylesbury. It was mad. But yeah, so you know, going forward, Robbie had left Caveman, and he was just like, have you heard of this group called MCD? And I was like, I ain't heard of him, MCD. Your MCD's rough. And I was like, because he was really particular about who he wanted to work with, because he thought a lot of the MCs over here were weak. There was only a few MCs that were up on grade. MC Mello we respected. Mello was dope. You know, Hijack we listened to. We thought that we didn't know who bit whose style. Did Silver Bullet bite Comanche Sly's style, or did Comanche bite Silver Bullets? There's all that kind of thing. I think Comanche Sly might get it, to be honest. I think Ronnie was ahead, you know. But anyway, it was a mad one, all that kind of thing going off. But so he goes, yo, I want to work MCD. I go, okay, cool. That sounds good. Played me Silent Eclipse, and we were like, the production was, you know, it was what it was, but yo, he was rough. Darren was rough. So that happened, and Robbie made the Damned EP. I drove us from Aylesbury to Holloway Road to Monroe Studios, and Monroe Studios was where Hank was run by a guy called Hank. Hank's a legend. There's quite a lot. I think you could say that you could probably articulate that Monroe was the spot, but I think Brotherhood recorded there. I don't know if London Posse recorded there, but anyway, it was almost like you say the Chung King, because D&D hadn't happened by then, really. Chung King was and Power Play Studios were the key studios in the States where people made stuff, and it was like, oh my God, or Battery Studios as well. I think Battery Studios was here, but Monroe was like, you know, that was the home, you know, of a lot of artists. So I went to the session. It must have been 93, 92. And I met MCD and I met DJ Fusion. who was his partner, Simon, who was his partner, I still bred him to this day, in Silent Eclipse. And that's when Simon started talking to me. We started talking because Robbie and Darren were laying the thing down, and goes, yo, you know about this store in South London called Liberty Grooves? And I'd seen it in Hip Hop Connection. I'd seen the sort of dodgy sort of draft style logo with the Statue of Liberty peeking up behind it. And I was like, okay, he goes, yo, you, because he knew I was going in deep with my hip hop vinyl. I was going wherever to get whatever. And I went there and my mind was blown by to another level, because that's where I started discovering the whole thing about you could actually get access to getting test press or promos, and the promo presses and all this kind of stuff, and this whole thing when I met Johnny F. And Big Ted was there. Big Ted was working there. Shorty Blitz was working there. There's other brethren working there. Ty, rest in peace, was there. That's where we all met. Mark B, as I said, Julian Creators, Brotherhood, Principal Mark, Sniper, all them lot. Do you know what I mean? And some of them put stuff out on Cold Sweat. Yeah. But yeah, it was great time.
So when did you start working at Mr. Bongos? Was it?
Oh, Mr. Bongos was 99. Mr. Bongos was 99. Yeah. So this is 93. And then this is when I met Johnny F. And this is when I ended up financing the Gutter Snipes Trials of Life EP. Because he had no money, but he had this game plan of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it, like, do the test presses, I'm going to sell them, I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Very genius at the time. But I never saw that money ever again. That money went into, like, it was a life lesson, do you know what I mean? So I put all the money I had into backing that. Right? I met, and we're still mates with Sel, I'm still mates with Russell, and I'm still mates with Prime Cuts, because Prime Cuts was the DJ, right? Wow. Yeah, and Prime Cuts wasn't the original DJ. DJ First Rate, I think, was the DJ. Then I think it changed to Prime Cuts, or one way, or however it patterned out. Anyway, yeah, it was a mad one, and yeah, I'm still brethren with all of them today. And but yeah, I put that record out. That record wouldn't have come out. Gutter Snipes, a fantastic release, amazing. Russell was really, DJ Sire. He was just like on a great level. When it comes to production, I reckon influenced by the Principal. A lot of people were influenced by Robbie's beats, because he really took it. I mean, before he gave up, he was talking to Jamalski, at New Music Seminar about doing stuff with him, and other people wanted to know, major. So it's a shame that Robbie gave up music, but everyone's got their path in life. Yeah. But yeah, so I was hunting. We're going for breaks, we're going wherever, which way in the third to get whatever, and still staying up on our creps. Do you know what I mean? When I was going shopping at Mr. Bongo, when I was going shopping at all these stuff, I was wearing the kicks, and everyone's like, really? Like that, just bugging out. I had to be on though. You had to be on, Scan. You know what I mean? There's no half stepping, mate. Do you know what I mean? You had to be ahead or forget it. Do you know what I mean? You're ahead or you're dead. Do you know what I mean? Done. So that's the life lesson still to this day, making sure no one knew the secret spots, you know what I mean? Going here, there, and boom, 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 and making sure you're ahead. Being blessed to be able to get the States, come back with colorways of stuff that weren't available here, or models that weren't available here. And then to working in Bongos. Yeah, I'd worked there, I'd been buying so many records over there for time, and I was bugging them, on a job, and trying to get a job in a record shop back then, you had to be down. You had to be so down. And I'd finesse those, you sort of finessed it a little bit, help here, but on my own as well. And it was a mad one. But back then, so when I worked at Bongos though, I'd moved to Brighton in '97. So I was seeing a girl who was from here, and then she'd gone to uni down there. So I was going to Brighton on every weekend, and then I'd be walking around Brighton city centre, and I got to know a lot of people, and I'd just be milling around, and then ended up moving there with my brethren, and lived there for 3 years. And then I started, we split up, and then I started on radio. My first gig on radio was back in Brighton days. And Cy and Kurt, who I was friends with, these twins, they were mates with, I think, a guy called Gordon, who helped set up Kiss FM. He was setting up a new station, which was at that time Surf 107, referred to as Surf because by Brighton and by Worthing and all that, and the surfers there. So managed, and I was tight with Bongos just before I was working there, and I could get all the records. So the thing is, it
So,
was like,
so how would you describe the first ever radio show you did? It was pre All City, right?
oh, way pre All City. Oh
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it was the Beats to the Rhyme show, right? Okay,
Yeah,
it was Cy was on the decks, right? His twin brother Kurt was the producer, and he was the one who would always chat business to the guys at the radio station. And my boy Scratchy Grant, Scratchy Muffin, and me. So me and Scratchy were on the mic. We were hosting it together,
right.
and I'd be getting the records. We gave so many first plays. Right, if we had that radio station in London, we would have had so many first plays in the UK premieres, because we had it all. No one else was playing what we were playing. We played Dilated first. We played Loop Pack first. We played Jurassic 5 first. We played People Under the Stairs first. We played everybody first. It was mad because I could get the records and then we could drop them. And everyone else's radio shows, hip hop radio shows, were at the weekend.
Yeah.
And our show was on the Monday or Tuesday or whatever. So we'd be able to get the records, boom, bust them out. We good. I mean, and ahead. So yeah, I learned so much, and I got to thank those three so much, man. And that was the Beats to the Rhyme show, named after the Run DMC record. Kind of made sense. I can't remember who decided to use that name, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. We did, and and then that was that. And then from that I got down with a lot of promo companies, record promo companies, who would then start sending us records to play. We'd be classed as regional, but and we'd get interviews, and that's when a lot of rap stars used to tour independent artists, like El Fudge and all of them, J5, everyone really. Do you know what I mean? And we met them all, we interviewed them all, we had them up. So yeah, it was wicked. And then I moved to London, and I still continued doing the show a little bit because the other guys left because it got disillusioned because we get moving around. But then it just got too much to do that. Then that's when I hit Itch FM, because Itch FM, right? The flyers were in the record store in Bongos, and I worked after that at Major Flavors, where I met other people. That's where Slamming Kick started. Slamming Kick started in Major Flavors because everyone knew about my sneaker game. So working behind the counter at Bongos, everyone would be looking at what I was wearing or what Charlie Shazer was wearing on our feet. What you got, and there was a little thing between the crew. So Hugh and Cam would go, I got these, and then we got those, and they'd be able to go on buying trips to America and come back like flexing. Oh, I got these in New York, like that. And I'd be like, okay, whatever. I mean, it was just this great sort of camaraderie, but rivalry at the same time. Yeah. And it was good. And then people would be looking over the counter, going, "What we got on our feet," which is which is funny. Do you know what I mean? Which is bugging out. And then I went to work at Major Flavors, as I said, and that's when Ronnie goes, "Yo, what do you think about, you're in your sneakers, you're in your trainers. What do you think about having a Wallace trainers over there?" And I was like, "Mate, that'd be great." And that's when Slamming Kicks happened. That's when I met Magdi. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, and that happened, and I went to Scenario, but I went to Itch, right? So I did a show on Itch FM, and we moved around. And it was interesting. I think, trying to remember, I had Simon from the Creators as a DJ at one point. I had my boy DJ Audio Ad as a DJ, and I can't remember who else. But we had to shift stuff. But but Itch FM was a whole new different style of radio show, because I'd been used to the slick styles, right? Yeah. You'd have the jingles all up on this computer bed and blah 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 when we were doing Surf, when we were doing the Beats to the Rhyme show. But Itch FM, that's pirate, it's hood. I didn't even know what reloads were and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what is this? Oh, you got to get the phone blazing, you got to do this. And I was like, no, I ain't doing that. Do you know what I mean? You got to get the phone popping off. I'm not bothered about it. I just want to play the records. Do you know what I mean? So so I had the show, and I can't remember what the name of the show. I can't remember what we called the show. I can't remember. I think the boys at Itch will remember. Naming no names. But I got busted on Itch. I was the dude that got busted. I was the dude that got busted.
Halfway through a show, or how did it go down?
Probably about 5 minutes into my show. I got busted on Itch. I took it though. Do you know what I mean? I got arrested and everything. I took it, you know what I mean? But I mean, the thing is, but at the end of the day, nothing stuck, so we're good. No one was hurt during the making of that movie, but I just just did what I did. You know what I mean? And you know, and
so at what point did you?
Oh yeah, and then after I got busted, right? Then that's when I went to All City. Okay. That's when Dan Greenpeace, because Dan Greenpeace is doing the All City show. Oh, I forgot to say, I was working at Bad Magic, right?
Right, the record label.
After Bongos, I think, I can't remember if I was doing both at the same time, but I was Major Flavors and I was at Bad Magic, and then I transitioned to Bad Magic, and then I transitioned full time to Major Flavors before going to Scenario Records. But that's when I worked on the tail end of the Creators album, The Wait. That's when I worked with Vinyl Dialect. That's when we worked with all the little one shots like the Cage 54 track and all that kind of stuff. And then that's when Black Twang came into the mix.
So you did the kickoff album
for the first time. Yes. That's when I met Tony for the first time. And I hadn't met him before. I knew him. I respected him. You know, everyone knew Detwork Southeast. But I'd never met him before. So yeah, it was a mad one. But yeah.
What was it like to be around the release of that album? Because that release did quite well, isn't it?
Oh, it did majorly well. The kickoff ended up being one of the tracks, or the track for Soccer AM, I do believe. Yeah, it did well. I mean, the mad thing was it was ahead of its time as well, because the art was done by Banksy. Because Banksy's studio was actually in my office. So I'd see him every day. One of my biggest regrets is I never bought a thing off him, even though I'd say to him every day, I'll go buy one of these off you. Yeah, I'll sort you out. And he was mad cheap, but bearing in mind, I wasn't able to rub 2 pennies together at that point, you know what I mean? So it was very hand to mouth for me. So yeah, maybe that pair of Air Prestos, I shouldn't have bought it, and I should have bought the Banksy, but hey, whatever, you know, you live and you learn. But so yeah, it was way ahead of its time. And that's when Estelle came into the mix as well, off the back of, I think, Skitz's track, where he had Wildflower. What was
Domestic
it? Wildflower?
Science.
Domestic Science had, what is it? Wildflower, Estelle, and Temper?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, right? Three female MCs. Got to give it to Joe, man. Very, very groundbreaking track, fantastic track. 3 female MCs. Had never been done before on one track. I mean, obviously, female MCs have been around since day, but not in the same regard as how he'd patterned it. So yeah, full respect due. But yeah, it was mad working on it. That's when I got a whole other side of the industry. So I'd gone from buying records to selling records to playing records on radio. Then I saw the other side, how records were made, booking studios, booking tours, putting all that together, you know, working with tour managers, working with venues, you know, working with PR companies, you know, talking about album sequencing, very critical. What's number 1? What's track 2? What's track 3? How does it flow? That a massive amount of thought goes into those things that we take for granted, you know, the way things go. Right now, I don't know how many, you know, people care about the album format because everything's become singles, but things, albums to me, very critical, the story that's told and how the artist is telling it. You know, it's very, very important. You know, the label copy, making sure all the credits are there and no spelling mistakes and all given, the artwork, you know, and this was very, very nascent. Right now, you can just boom a bit of artwork out, you know, on your laptop, right? Back then, you had to have certain programs and you had to have a certain skill set. You know, Photoshop was probably very rudimentary back then, you know, all these sort of things, you know, it was crazy. And MySpace didn't even exist at that point. So if you wanted to get your music out, you know, you had to go for traditional routes. You had to break it on Pirate, get that thing buzzing. Then you'd give it to the major record labels. Now it's all back to front, but you know, whatever, it is what it is, you know. And it was crazy. So seeing that, so I'd seen the music industry from all aspects, you know, and then going on DJ at clubs, you know, and I DJ at clubs. So I DJ at Ministry, or I DJ at Fabric, or blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. You know, I don't really enjoy DJing, bro. To be real, do you know what I mean? I like playing records. I don't like DJing as such. I take my hat off. You know, okay, you can beat match, but it's sequencing. Do you know what I mean? It's a whole skill set in itself, and you know, I got to give it to some of the best that I've ever seen do it from this country. Yo, I got to give it to Shorty Blitz, Rocker Party, just on a dime. I got to give it to Mr. Thing. You know, the 2 of the best to ever do it in my book, and Far Too Humble. They can take it, you know, to DJ Maceo, you know, DJ Spinner, are some of the best DJs I've ever seen, you know, you know, really rip up the dance floor. You know what I mean? Clark Kent's, your Stretch Armstrongs, all them sort of people. You know, Kid Caprice. I seen them all, and you know, Ronson. I've got to give Mark Ronson props. You know what I mean? He knows his stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of DJs who have done a lot of things, and you know, I've really got to, you know, take my hat off to them. It's a whole different thing.
So at what point did you actually start collecting trainers? There was
no. I just never threw anything away. Oh. That's the thing. You know, it was just like, okay, cool. Right, I'm on to the next thing. I'll put them in the back of the closet. Do you know what I mean? I'll go into the next thing. You got to be fresh, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I just never threw anything away. So I've always said it's not a conscious decision to collect, to archive things. It's an accumulation. That's more of an accurate thing. Now you've got people who just, I want that, and that. And they will go out and they'll go, need, you know, like how I used to do like football stickers back in the day, got, need, swap. It's the same thing with sneakers. It's the same now as, you know, everything's got a value attached to it. Because once stuff started getting rare and then people started wanting to pay money for, or wanted to get the retro stuff because they didn't feel the new flavors, then things started getting, oh, okay, you can make money out of this. It's sort of a natural thing that sort of just happened, really.
Right. And were there other like collectors or connoisseurs who you admired at the time and who you maybe modeled yourself after, or?
No, because the thing is, when I was doing what I was doing, I didn't know about anyone else. I knew people with, like my boy Priesty had all these mad Adidas, right? And he had more trainers at me than I eventually, you know, had more than him at some point. But it was no one-upmanship with him. He's brethren, he's crew, we gang. So it was just like, you know, I just wanted to get the latest thing. I wanted to go that. I'd got a JD, and I'd see, I'd go in there and I'd just look at the racks. And this is when JD had flavor. Before size existed, before that was JD, and it was Cobra, you know, it was the main sports stores, Intersport as well. They were the ones to hit. They'd have, you know, the latest flavors. And then, you know, after that, the boutique stores started happening. You know, you get your size, and then you get your Offspring started first, then size happened. And Offspring was an offshoot of Office Shoes, and size was an offshoot of JD. And then start to get more limited product or product catering towards that kind of sort of thing. But prior to that, actually, Cobra did this thing called Cobra Frontier, where they're looking at outdoor stuff. You know how big outdoor stuff is, like ACGs and, you know, Salomon and all these other ones right now. Back then, you know, Cobra Sports started all that stuff off, which was mad. Do you know what I mean? And this is before Sports Direct existed, before All Sports and, you know, all the other ones existed, which Mike actually ended up buying. But yeah, it was a mad one. Do you know what I mean? It really was. But you know, I mean, I'm kind of glad to react. Do you know what I mean with it?
So at what point did you start to become like, you know, a consultant or an ambassador for these trainer brands?
I mean, I think it just happened just naturally. There was a forum that's very critical to this whole thing. Well, there's two. One's Nike Talk, which started off in the US talking about Nikes in the late 90s, early 2000s. And this is when, you know, people were on dial-up, but then broadband came in. But it was one of those sort of things that transition and laptops and all that kind of stuff. It was mad money back then. Mobile phones, you know, you had a tiny screen, you could only text and stuff. You couldn't do half the things you can do on it now. But and Crooked Tongues. And when Crooked Tongue started, that's when stuff, then I was like, oh, okay, there's some more people who are into sneakers like that. And they're also into hip hop and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, oh, okay. And from all around the world.
Yeah.
That's when it was like, oh, okay, this is a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Didn't realize. Now I'm not so crazy. Do you know what I mean? There's more people like us. And it was kind of mad. I even remember when Russ and Chris were starting Crooked Tongues. They used to shop in Mr. Bongos.
Right.
And I think they worked at a store called Bond, which is a store, which used to be just off Carnaby Street on Newburgh Street, and started by KJ. And I was and they're going, yeah, we're doing this thing. And I go, what are we doing? You know, come up to the office and see and check us out. It's all around this. And they're also doing this thing called Spine Magazine, which was a magazine, a web magazine dedicated to music and being up on top of stuff. And I didn't quite get it. No one kind of got it back then. Do you know what I mean? But then it suddenly developed into this thing. And so many people met each other on Crooked Tongues, and they'd had the Crooked Tongues barbecue, and Maestro would MC there. You know, they're very embedded. Russ sponsored Kung Fu and so on and so forth, which is a seminal night. You know, shouts out to Charlie and Leo, very pioneering UK focused hip hop night in Camden. And you know, I mean, it was a crazy one. So that's when I sort of like discovered there's more people who are into kicks and who want kicks and who want to know, and there's discussions around it and all that kind of stuff. It was a mad one. It really was. Yeah. So that was an eye opener, you know.
Right.
And I met some great people through that, and some of them still to this day are my friends. And you know, I just got to. The list is mad long, so I just want to, you know, show love to all of them. And yeah, great times with great people.
So would you say that was more or less around the time it became less of a hobby and actually became like a job for you?
I still, you know what, it's a mad one to refer to it as a job, because I'm doing what I love, and I'm very blessed, because there's, you know, the majority of people aren't in that position. But I don't actually know when it transitioned, really. It just, I mean, I remember getting invited to a Nike event, and getting invited to a Nike dinner, and they'd just ask us a load of questions and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. But what happened was after I worked at Scenario Records, and after that, I was in a bit of a stasis period. I worked at Offspring for a little bit. Then I set up my streetwear distribution company, and then that's when things went crazy when we were homie Charlie. And Charlie was one of the dudes who helped set up Carhartt in this country way back when. And we started up straight up distribution, and we distributed all these brands from America. We had exclusive license to distribute them, and that's how I got to know all the stores on the streetwear side of things. And then that's how I got to be able to gift, you know, seed. I started seeding out product. I was like, the way to get stuff seen is, you know, you got to get your brethren's wearing it, and then boom, everyone's going to wear it. So I'd Mr. Jam, I'd get Pete to come up. I go, yo, Pete, I got some for you. I'd get Elliot to come up. So Example came up. I'd get Tiny Temper in. I'd get whoever in, you know, to wear stuff that we were distributing. And then that's why people wanted to wear it. I've got to give a shout out to Michael Cohn as well, because one of the labels that I was distributing was Mishka, and Mishka was heavily, you know, into the, you know, immersed in the dubstep scene. You know, they were doing exclusive mixes with Plastician and you know, Scream and all that kind of stuff. And that was down to Michael. And he was doing the same stuff with Mishka in the States. And, you know, we sort of synced up, and it was just great. So yeah, it was a mad one. Do you know what I mean? So being immersed in all the sort of up and coming scenes, etc., it was very, very important. And also utilizing my contacts that I'd made from the music industry. So I, you know, could get them styled, could get it in certain videos, could get it boom on that. And then I got to shout out Layla Fattar as well, who was our PR from Spin, because she managed to, you know, she helped out as well. There's a lot of people involved, calling in favors from people in magazines as well, whatever. Do you know what I mean? You just had to use the hustle to get everything ahead. And it was mad, because we were at that first sort of apex of the second wave of streetwear. Because when I look at the first streetwear, we didn't call it streetwear. We wore clothes on the street. Do you know what I mean? It's what we wore when we were wearing chippy and all that kind of stuff. And you know, and Stussy. Stussy still to this day. You know, I was skating in Stussy in the 80s. I was skating. I had Stussy before Stussy was distributed in this country. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd go to the States and I'd see it in a surf shop, because it was a surf brand. It wasn't even a skateboard brand. It's a surf brand. Sean Stussy was a surfer. Still is. Right? And we were wearing surfwear, because we were wearing Ocean Pacific. We were wearing and we were wearing Stussy. And then after that, you'd had your Mambos, your Gotchas, and you know, all the other sort of surf brands, Life's a Beach, and all the other ones that came into the mix afterwards, Body Glove, all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it was a mad one, you know. But yeah, there's all these trends coming in and out, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, as they are now. But you know, you just have to be boom on it. You know, what was in, once it was in, you know, it was played out. Can't be wearing played out stuff, you know. Yeah, it was mad, because then you think about the brands that were dominant in the 90s. So I remember, you know, after all that, after your Chippies and Chevignons, boom, out, yo, we got to get Cross Colors, right? We got to get 555 Soul, you know. Then we got to get Fat Farm, you know, and that you had to be boom on it. I mean, we want to wear Hilfiger and Polo, right? But we couldn't really afford Hilfiger and Polo, but we had Hilfiger and Polo, you know? You know, I remember dropping £500 on a polo jacket, polo sport jacket, which I still got in the 90s, man. How much that is now, but it was like a zip in and out Polartec fleece. And yo, if I showed it to the low heads now, they'd be bugging out. But yeah, I'd be going to jams and that, and people were just like, what, yo, like that. Do you know what I mean? But I digress, you know what I mean? It's all about being bam, 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 just up on the next thing, up on the next thing, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a whole thing. And then, you know, after the streetwear, because you know, what happened to our company, we were so in bed with so much, but we were owed a lot of money from stores, and stores went down within that recession that happened. So we took a big hit, and it was a wrap for us. Pioneered a lot of stuff though, in a certain sense, working with different blogs, you know, Better Never Than Late, you know, those guys, you know, great people, you know, Matt Benson and that, you know, way ahead of the game, you know, and working with them to get our stuff out with the young kids for the next gen, you know, it was important. And putting them, you know, and then validating them and just trying to work with them and invest in the future, always been a key thing, you know, wherever I've gone, you know, I mean, you know, someone wants to know something, yo, let's educate at any given point. And I think that's very important even to this day. It's probably the most important consideration to make sure the next gen come through proper.
Right.
But yeah, we did all that, and Charlie and I, you know, I met a whole network of people. You know, most of them still my friends to this day. Some of the stores are sadly no longer with us, as I said, which took us down. But some of them still are, and it's really good. You know, you got your well goshes, you know, and you know, got to shout out Pete. Got to shout out Chris and Dan and you know, Ben and the whole crew, Coops and that, who held it down there in Leicester. You know, my boy Dan, Urban Industry, you know, he's still going strong with his whole crew. Do you know what I mean? My boy Steve at Kushti in Bristol, you know what I mean, still going strong. I mean, you know, the network is a good network, and there's a lot of good people there. And you know, it's important to recognize that, you know. And then yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I think you know, we now, after that, we're coming into the mix where, you know, more visual aspects of social media happens. You had the MySpace thing for a minute, which was a fantastic way to produce, you know, promote your music, etc. The daftest interface, could never figure it out. Top friends and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, people navigated it somehow. Then you had the advent of Twitter, you know, Facebook, obviously.
Yeah.
Then you had your Twitter, and then you had Instagram.
And would you consider Instagram like the game changer, really?
Absolutely, because it just took everything from that level up. It was visual, it was instant. You know, you could promote yourself on it, no matter what you're doing. You know, and then other people came into the mix, and then they had to. Then it caused Instagram to up its game, because video content wasn't available at the start. And then I think, was it Snapchat? Can't remember. Something happened. And then Instagram did its own version, you know, and TikTok's happening. And so Instagram's having to counteract what TikTok's doing. So that's why you got Reels. You got Reels because of TikTok, you know. You got you had video because of Snapchat, I do believe, and you had the DM capability on because of Snapchat, I think. I might be missing one sort of platform there, but you know, it's all about boom, 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 and you know, the way that you can interact. But the thing is, you know, when things used to be dictated by magazines, you know, and by TV shows, you know, the advent of YouTube, we've got to shout out YouTube as well. You know, you've got direct content and people can actually watch what they want to watch, because half these TV stations trying to get something commissioned, they ain't on it. So let's make our own one. Let's do this. Let's do a show dedicated to blah, blah. I'm going to do a show that's dedicated to doing this. And then you get big stars from it. And rightly so. You know, if they're doing it in a very honest way. You know, it's like, boom, if you're a DJ, or if you're you know, if you're a graffiti artist, if you're a designer, if you're a fashion, whatever, you can have an instant access to your audience. You can cut out the middleman. You can present it yourself. You know, which is brilliant, which is absolutely amazing. You know, But then the challenge is, there's a lot of it. So how do you stand out? How do you make yourself better? How do you make yourself look better than that? And it's always a challenge, and you can't rest on your laurels. You just got to keep on the, you know, we're on a journey, and to get to A to B, you got to keep your foot on the gas. So don't take your foot off the pedal. Just keep on going.
But do you still get, do you still get as excited for new trainers as you did when you were younger?
Depends. It really depends. I mean, back then, you didn't have a heads up on what was happening. You had to get to know someone at the sports store and get them to, show you the catalog for what's coming out next season. And then go, boom. And then go, oh, can you get that? Can you get that? And half the time it'd be like, half of it didn't get range because it didn't hit minimums. But you'd be like, why haven't you got this shoe in? Oh, we couldn't get it. And like, you didn't understand that side of things. I didn't understand that till later. But sometimes you get things that really make your jaw drop. But the things, there's so much coming out now, and at such a prolific rate, it's hard for you to gain that sort of affinity with a certain shoe that you once had back in the day. And that's why I kind of get reminiscent and nostalgic over certain models, and some fantastic new executions come out. New materials.
Right. So in terms of sneaker culture, when would you, in your opinion, what would you say was like the peak year for it? And or if has it even peaked yet?
No, I mean, it's had its ups and downs and trends in and out. When I had the streetwear distribution company, when I had Straight Up, just after that, this whole sort of like, it's coming back now, but this whole sort of out, sort of geography teacher-esque sort of kind of look came in, where people will be wearing like Penfields and all that kind of stuff and all those sort of things, and rolled up jeans and trickers or whatever, that kind of stuff that came into the mix. But at the end of the day, no, it's growing and it's growing and it's growing. New markets are emerging. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants to look like, like whomever, like Pharrell or like Kanye or Travis Scott or whoever the latest sort of people that are gravitating towards with regards to their look is happening. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, but no, it hasn't peaked. It hasn't peaked. And it's, it might dip a little bit, but it's going to come back up. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. I mean, the thing is, more people are coming to the mix, more generations are coming into the mix, and they want it, they love it, they boom, they're about it. And it's great to see that. You got new designers coming through. Some of them making some weird stuff, but hey, it's a conversation. It's very challenging. Do you know what I mean? And you're getting great people, coming into the mix who are like really provoking and challenging things in terms of design, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And it's the same with fashion, because I look at shoes just an extension of my look. The whole drip from top to bottom or bottom to top has to be on the level. There's no point in wearing cool shoes if you look busted up top, and there's no point in looking, flexing on top and your shoes is whack. Do you know what I mean? Come on. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But I mean, one thing you obviously that you might not speak on as much as you do about trainers is probably the rest of the clothes that you wear. So you must have quite an in-depth collection of like, I don't know, like exclusive tracksuits and, as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been very blessed with regards to the apparel that I've got over the years. I haven't really thrown anything away. I might have given some stuff away to friends, and same with sneakers, etc., before we knew the inherent value, not in monetary terms, but in historical terms. There's certain things I've given away, and I was like, oh man, why did I do that? Because now that's a key part of that moment of history. So boom. But what's happened is that I've had to go back, I've had to hunt, or I've had to help, just go digging to get stuff. The same with sneakers, the same with records, the same applies to clothes. Same applies with comic books that I've been into since day one. My comic book collection was mad. I still got them, but I was mad on it. Do you know what I mean? Making sure I got like Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance of Punisher, making sure I got Hulk 180, 181, first appearance of Wolverine, things like that. Do you know what I mean? Making sure I got, first, Fantastic Four 48, first appearance of Silver Surfer, that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I had to make sure I was on that as well. It's a crazy one, just archiving stuff. Because the thing is, like, the one thing I've identified, right, this stuff isn't for me to keep. This stuff is for me to have one component in setting up an institution dedicated to contemporary culture. Because the thing is, when you have the VNA, right, what are you looking at? You're looking back in time. When you go to the British Museum, what are you doing? You're looking back in time. When you go to the Natural History Museum, what are you doing? You're looking back in time. But what about them now? What about the stuff that is getting destroyed right in front of our eyes, or isn't being given any due, credence? Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, certain things in the 80s and the 70s, etc., you've got to hunt to find them. Those stories are being lost. And things are being rewritten and put out of context. You know, certain people are giving weight to certain brands being cool. They were never cool. I know what the brands were cool. I know what the brands, if you use a herb, you thought that was cool. That weren't cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll make sure that, you know, we have that. We got to correlate that. We got to put it into context with the music, the fashion, the style, the politics. Everything that was going on at that given moment has to be, you know, represented, has to be spoken about, and has to be documented. And it has to be interactive so people can, you know, and the new generations can understand. You know, I really do, you know, I really do wonder some of the things that we take as historical facts, how factual are they? You know, so many things coming into the mix that I'm like, wow. There's this one thing my boy sent me. It's about the Roman Empire. And I do believe one of the emperors of the Roman Empire was actually Ethiopian. And the statue of that person is in one of the most prestigious buildings. I'm going to send it to you afterwards, right? In the UK. But you wouldn't know it because it's stone. Once years ago, it was painted, but the paint is worn off, right? And and apparently, you know, it was mind blowing. I didn't even know this. It was like 2 weeks ago. And I think it's my boy Jimmy Goodstep who sent it to me. I didn't know this. And there's a key figure. I don't know if it's the Houses of Parliament or if it's in, you know, one of the palaces or whatever. But you know, when you look at that, or if it's in Westminster Abbey or one of, I can't remember which one, but we're talking, you know, this person was an Ethiopian in Britain before it was Britain, 208 AD, like that. Yeah, we're talking way back, right? And there's so many things that you sort of discover how the world was and how prejudice suddenly started getting applied to it. You see, there's always been like a domination of a population on a weaker population. Or less developed one. And that's happened myriad of times throughout history. The amount of people that have been enslaved is you just beggars belief, you know.
So have you?
So yeah, I mean, you know, it's important for me to recognize that we have to make sure that all the music, all everything, every aspect of contemporary culture right now is there, and it's presented in as diligent a manner and a fashion as possible. So that's what this is all about, really. Do you know what I mean? Making sure that people, you know, when I'm doing an interview with you, it gives me a chance to say that. And, you know, I've got to thank you for that, Scan. Do you know what I mean? Seriously, because this is a story and it's relaying that so things don't get lost, you know, and it's preserved.
And legacy is so important, man. I mean, have you ever thought about, I don't know, ever releasing a book, or because I mean, obviously you have so much knowledge and actually like first person experience through all of these changes in trends and culture over the last 30 plus years. So is that, you know, is that something that you'd want to leave behind?
Yo, that's not a bad shout. I mean, there's a lot of people who've done some fantastic books on the subject. There's some who've done some pretty whack ones as well. But I'm going to be writing, I'm in the process of writing, like the first ever sneaker book dedicated to sneaker culture, as we know it, came out in 1998, and it was called Sneakers, Sizes and Everything. It was written by my friend Paul and Nico, David and John and Elliot and Steve, these guys. And I remember seeing a flyer in Mr. Bongo, even before I worked in there, going, hey, we want to talk to you. And I was like, everyone's going, yo, you should bring that number. I was like, I know, man, it seems a bit sus, do you know what I mean? Anyway, they ended up writing the first ever book. It's a brilliant book. And in that book, you got people like Kim Jones is in that book, because Kim Jones was working as an intern for these guys, and he loved his shoes. And he ended up being in the book. And, you know, some other, you know, key people that are now in the industry were in that book, and they use it as a point of reference. And there's other people who are in the industry, but weren't in the book, but use that book as a key point of reference. And then my friend Neil Herr's written a book called Trainers, which is the second book on sneakers. Scoop Jackson wrote one, Soul Provider, from a hip hop basketball, a Nike basketball point of view, I should say. Nike hoops basketball, that's what I'm saying. and Bobito's done Where Did You Get Those? And then there's been a whole myriad of people who've done some books. The most recent one that I want to get, hopefully someone will actually translate it. I hope Tonton does it. But my bro Tonton and Uncle T and Techie Latex did a book called Street Style, which is in French. And I'm in it, and a few other people are in it. It looks money. That's got to come out. It's got to be an English translation, English version of that. It's got to come out. That'd be fantastic. But the book I did, I mean, I'm going to be writing the sequel to Sneakers Sizes and Everything. Sneakers the next size up with the original gang, but we were hitting a few snags at the moment. Hopefully, it will still happen. But we'll see what happens. But basically. I mean, it's a good idea to do book, but I think I want to take it more. I want to do this. I don't want to do an institution dedicated to this, so people can actually, get involved with it. And that's the thing. So now is the process of finding a benefactor. Is finding a philanthropist or a group of philanthropists who realize and recognize that vision and want to do the same thing. There've been tidbits. I mean, the Brooklyn Shoe Museum, does a bit. The Shoe Museum of Northampton as well, because not everyone realizes Northampton is actually the capital of footwear, really, when you think about it, because that's where all the key shoe brands are. Your Trickers, your Churches, your Lokes, your Grensons, and etc., all emanate from there. And Northampton shoe manufacturing is still the pinnacle. You have your shoes, like having a suit made on Savile Row. It's the pinnacle. You can get, a suit made in Saxon Fifth Ave or wherever, wherever, or Melrose or Rodeo Drive in LA, wherever, right? Or Milan or Paris. But Savile Row is where you get your suit if you want that suit, And if you want your shoes to go with that suit, they're generally made in Northampton. Forget about your made in Italy's, forget about your made in USA's. I mean, no disrespect to them, but that whole ethos, that whole level comes from Northampton. So the thing is, so you've got institutions like that. You've got the Bata Shoe Museum in Toronto, but I don't want to just be shoes. It's got to be the music. It's got to be the clothes. It's got to be the comics. It's got to be the magazines. It's got to be the TV programs. It's got to be the films. Everything has to sort of like the jigsaw puzzle has to fit together. Really, do you know what I mean? And the books as well. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll write a book. I don't know, Scan, but I want to take it that much beyond. Do you know what I mean?
Man, I think
if I don't do it, someone will do it. Though. If I don't do it, someone will do it. It will happen.
Yeah. Definitely. That needs to happen 100%, man. I've got some questions that the rest of the team have sent me in preparation for this interview. Do you mind if we do some hot shot questions?
All right, I'll give it my best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So so the first one I've got, how many pairs of kicks do you think you have?
No clue. I haven't done an inventory, but if we do this interview this time next year, part 2 of it, if anyone wants to listen to that, I'll have an answer to that because I'm going to do an inventory. Yeah. I'm gonna. One of my goals this year, I've spoken about it for the past 5 years, is to have all my records racked up and all my sneakers racked up. So then they can be accessed and have a library, and facilitate that until we can migrate them to the bigger institution that I was referring to. But I got I got over a couple of thousand. I know that, but that's because I haven't thrown anything away really. And there's the amount of shoes that keep coming out now. Boom, crazy.
Right. So what would you consider your favorite pair of trainers?
Oh, the black Jordan 4.
Yeah? Still to this day?
Still to this day. 100%. The amount of people that I met through that shoe, Jordan 4 for me is the dopest shoe of all time. But, and there've been some fantastic shoes that have come out subsequently, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, it's the people, the stories that attach what I was doing when I was wearing that shoe, the people I met wearing that shoe, the music that was coming around when that shoe was around. I mean, it's a deep thing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What is the furthest place you've traveled for a pair of kicks?
Oh, deliberately for a pair of kicks, not that far really in relative terms, but I was in New York in 1999, I do believe. And I was walking around New York and I saw everyone wearing these version of Air Max 95s I'd never seen before. And they had a black sole, neon bubble, and then it faded up from all the way black to grey, light grey, boom, 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 to white. And then the lace loops were Volt. The most neck snapping Air Max 95s I'd ever seen. I could see someone walking down the street from far off, all the way down road. And I was like, whoa, I need those shoes. Eventually, I hadn't done it before. And I actually went up to two girls who were wearing them. I go, look, I've been to every sneaker store in Manhattan, right? I can't find these shoes. Where the hell do you get those? And they went, oh, we got them from Foot Action. And I was like, no. And I knew there was no Foot Action in Manhattan. There was Foot Action in Houston. I wasn't in Houston. That's where I first knew about Foot Action. And Foot Action used to have exclusive SMUs, special makeups, right? Just like how JD, you know, later did and Foot Locker did over here and so on and so forth. So I was like, bam. So what I did, I hit a payphone because the thing is, he had a mobile phone, but roaming, forget it. If I made that phone call on my mobile, right, in New York, I would be looking at like coming back to £1,000 bill just to get the information. So what you do is back then, I don't know if you still do it now, but you ring 411. So 411 is the information hotline.
Right.
So I rang up 411 and I was like, hi, where is there a Foot Action in New York? And they told me there was two. There was one in King's Plaza in Brooklyn, right? And the other one is in Staten Island.
Okay.
So I was like, whoa, I want to go where Wu-Tang's from. So basically, I went from where I was staying in Midtown. I went all the way down to the port to go get on the Staten Island ferry. Got on the Staten Island ferry, got off Staten Island ferry, and then got on the bus. The bus took an hour and a half to get to the Staten Island Mall. And it was a dumb move on my part because I didn't realize I could have probably walked. There's no Google map. There was no map of Staten Island that I could look at, check out. You know, my boys in New York, my boy Dan who I was staying there, he's going, we got to Staten Island for? He goes, oh, okay, if you find a pair, get me a pair, like that. And so I'm like, I go around the whole island, right? I could have walked it. You know what I mean? Like it'd probably take me 10 minutes to walk to the Staten Island Mall because the port, the dock, whatever you call it, is right near the mall, which I realised when I left the mall. Anyway, get on the bus. I'm seeing all these, like it was coming up to Halloween, and you're seeing all these crazy lights and the most garish, like, you know, get-ups of houses, just like with the most insane amount of lights going on. And I was just like, my God, this is a trip. Do you know what I mean? This is what Staten Island's like, is it? Wow. Anyway, get to the Staten Island Mall, and I get off the bus, run off the bus, head to the mall directory. Where is Foot Action? Boom, find it. Run, you know, walk to the store. I go in, I see the shoes on display. I was like, boy, I got to get them. And they go, yo, we've only got one pair left. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. And they go, yo, we got an 8.5. And this is American size. And I'm a US 9. 8.5. Oh, man. All right, can I just try them on, please? Can I try them on? And I tried them on, and somehow they fit. So I was like, oh my God. But I couldn't get a pair from my boy Dan. Dan was gutted, right? And Dan, by the way, I owe a lot to Dan because he put me onto so many people in New York. So I met Dan in New York in '94 when I was walking around Soho, and I came across this market stall in Soho, and I was just trying to buy, you know, just having a little, as I do, I just investigate, I just run around whatever back streets, whatever. And this guy's got a British accent. And I'm doing it. Oh, me and my brother live here. Okay, all right. How long have you been doing this? Yeah, I guess about a year or so. Okay, cool. Well, what's your brother do? Oh, he owns this store over there. What's the store? Stussy, right? And I'm going, why is a guy in a cut, you know, in a British accent? Right, I go, boy, I thought he's just trying it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he owns Stussy over there. Have you been there? Go, yeah, I know Stussy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I was going to go there. Your brother owns it? He goes, yeah. All right, whatever. He goes, yeah, he's just opened another store up as well around the corner. I go, oh, okay, cool. It's on Lafayette. You should go check it out. And I was like, okay, it's called Supreme. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. All right. I was like, whatever, mate. You're chatting foo-foo, right? Anyway, when I was living in Brighton, right, in I think 97, this girl walks through the door and she's wearing Supreme. And then she goes, oh, yeah, my brother's got a store like this. I go, oh, yeah, where's the store? I was hanging out in 145 store, which was owned by a guy called Ed, a good guy called Ed. And she goes, oh yeah, my brother owns, owns a store, he sells all this stuff in New York. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah. And I goes, yeah, he owns a store, he owns a Stussy store, and he owns the New York Stussy store, and he owns Supreme. I go, you know what's funny about your story? I met a guy 3 years ago in New York on a market store, and before I figured, oh, that's my brother Dan. And I was like, oh my God, the levels of serendipity, man, seriously, Scan. I was like, mind blown. I've gone from New York 3 years ago, 3 years prior, to this girl walking through the door. Kate is her name, lovely lady, friends to this day. And I'm like, rah, yeah, if you go to New York, he'll look after you, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, ended up ringing him when I was in New York, and he ended up looking after me, yeah? So he was working in his brother Stussy store by that point. He was working in Stussy for James Jebbia. Stan Jebbia is one of my best mates, Dan is, right? Anyway, that's why I was so gutted about not being able to get him those shoes. Do you know what I mean? Because the thing is, he'd gone out, he'd shown me this, blah, blah, blah. We've gone to, so many spots together. We'd got guest list or whatever and blah, blah, blah. It was a mad trip. And I was gutted. But I managed to get him a pair of Air Max 1s that were a Foot Action exclusive that we didn't know about, right? They were black with white sole, white tick and red accents, right? Cold, tumbled leather, full grain leather, hard look. And I brought them back for him. And he was gutted because I go, brother, I couldn't get you him. I couldn't get you him, man. He was like, oh, what? And I was going, but I got you something else like that. And I pulled them out, and he loved Max 1s, and he was made up. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's probably the most extreme lengths I've gone to get a pair of shoes, I think, apart from, trying to bid an astronomical number on eBay for something and thankfully not getting it and not winning it, because that would have just been disastrous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that does lead on to the next question. What would you say is the most that you spent on a pair of trainers?
Ooh. Currently?
Or historically? Or
Currently, I would say probably about £400, I think. Yeah, I think 400 is the max I've so far spent on a pair of shoes, and that's at a resale level, and also I think a couple of pairs at retail level, because the Comme des Garçons foam posits that came out last year, which one of my favorite shoes, completely reworked the upper to say CDG round it. Amazing concept. Yeah, they were retail $399 or $380 or something like that. So I was like, people, Kish, you got to get your head ready. But I was like, look, I love foams. I got paid. I'm blessed enough that I sometimes get some things, seeded to me, so I'm going to offset the difference, is how I looked at it. Do you know what I mean? You can't get everything. Can't get everything free. You got to still put in the work, and that's never going to change.
Right.
And I'm happy to support. So the thing is I think we're looking at about 400. I could be lying, but I don't think I am. I am. But the thing is, with retail prices creeping up and up and up and up,
could be more.
Yeah, soon it's going to be crazy. But it's not like I'm buying a pair of Valentinos or Balenciagas or anything like that, or Louis Vuitton kicks, because they is money. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
of course, man.
Yeah.
What would you say is your worst scuff or stain story?
Oh my God. I remember when I bought the Air Max 90 infrareds, when they were the Max Orange ones, and that was in like 2001, 2002. And it was the first time the Air Max 3, which is what the original name of it is, but the OG color of the Air Max 90 is how we refer to it now, came out. That's before they started to dilute the color and it was more infrared, but it was the Max Orange. And I think it was a Foot Locker exclusive at that time. I put them on. I put them on, and basically, I went to a jam, wearing the shoes, right? And that night, and then somebody flicked ash. It hit the mesh of the toe box, and it melted a little hole in the toe box instantly. And I was like, oh, like that. I couldn't believe it. So that is basically when when, you know, the most horrific thing ever happened to me. Do you know what I mean? With shoes. And I was just like, oh my gosh, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was that moment when you just, yeah. But bear in mind, I used to skate in my shoes. So I used to skate in my Air Trainer SCs or whatever, and they used to get ollie, you know, every time you ollied, it rubbed through the up through the upper. So you could say I've been scuffing them since day. I used to play football with my kicks. Do you know what I mean? So I've got to kick it about in the street and everything. So the thing is probably my first scuffs were happening from day one, before we got so precious about the shoes and looking all crispy. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right. So I've got a couple more from that series of questions. Next one is, obviously you've got such a wide range of trainers. So what would you say is your favorite gift that you've received from a friend or a relative in terms of?
Wow, there's been a few. The two that come to mind, I once helped Adidas out. I found an Adidas Run DMC leather jacket in a charity shop, and I was working at Scenario at the time, and it was the red leather. It was this sort of like burgundy leather, red, you know, tonal Run DMC jacket with the suede stripes and the suede trefoil just there. And I remember walking out of this shop called Hideout. My friend Michael Copperman used to run on Upper James Street in Soho. And as I was walking out, I see Mikey and Gary Aston from Adidas, who I knew. Their jaws dropped. And they were like, "Where did you get that jacket from?" Blah, 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 like that. And I was like, oh, you know, do you know what I mean? I got it. Do you know what I mean? They're like, look, can we borrow that jacket? And I was like, well, yeah, what are you going to do with it? Do you know what I mean? He goes, look, we just want to borrow that jacket. We want to bring it back. Can you borrow it? You know what I mean? I was like, okay, you brethren, do you know what I mean? So I gave it handed it over to Gary. Didn't think nothing of it. A few months later, I get a call, yo, Kish, do you want to come by the Adidas office? I was like, okay, cool. It's in Covent Garden, and it was a hot day, hot summer's day. And he goes, yeah, come by. You can pick your jacket up. I was like, okay, wicked. All right, cool. So I came back. I went to the office, and they sat me down. They go, yo, here's your jacket, cool. And I go, okay, cool, wicked. And this is what we did with it. We've made this jacket identical. We've done a fantastic job. Adidas, 1 for 1. And then I go, oh, wow, okay, cool. Goes, yeah. Anyway, you haven't got the OG black version. The black version, right? My boy, you remember I was talking about DJ Messiah, Mark, who was in Adidas like a crazy person? He had the black one already.
Yeah.
Right. They made the black one again. So they gave me back my color, my OG, the one that they used, right? In perfect nick. I don't know how they done what they did, but anyway, it's perfect. And then they gave me the black version, the retro, in a box, and they gave me a few pairs of sneakers. And I was like, rah, okay, wicked. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Check back to the office. A couple of months later, Gary hits me up again. Go, Kish. I go, yeah. I go, I got something for you at the office. Do you want to come by and pick it up? I was like, all right. It was an even hotter day. My God, I think this must have been July now by that point, or August. So I trek over to the office. He goes, yeah, just wait here. Comes out with a huge box, like massive box, right? Now, this is at the time of the 35th anniversary of the Superstar, right? It had been the year before or 6 months before, right? And it was groundbreaking, right? You had tiers of Adidas Superstars dedicated to the 35th anniversary. The top line, the sort of like the top tier, only 200 pairs in the world. Then you had the subsequent tier. Then you had the tier with the artist. Then you had the other tier, right, where it was record labels like Bad Boy, and Missy Elliott, and Run DMC, etc. They're on that, and all the way down to ones for Foot Locker or whichever store was carrying it. Yeah. The 35th one, and you can see it on the box, right? Every single box on the bottom, like a box of chocolates, had every description. Then there was one in silhouette, the 35th secret. That was a friends and family pair, right? No one knew what it was or whatever, right? I go to the office and I open the box. There is a combination lock leather box. Do you know what I mean? Briefcase, case, whatever you want to call it. I open it up. Inside is the pair of the 35th anniversary, 35th friends and family, only 200 pairs in the world, all leather Adidas Superstars, right? We're talking the soles leather, The cap is leather. The inside is leather. The entire everything is leather. The laces are leather. It's got a shoe polish there. It's got leather conditioner there. It's got a shoe trees, and it's got a you know, the what do you call it? The thing that you the shoe horn and everything in that, and a beautiful presentation case and a plaque. And he goes, Kish, that's yours. I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, that was mad. That was a mad thing. And then the second one that comes to mind, my boy Matt Langill, who I used to serve records to in Mr. Bongo, and he's Canadian, and he was living over here, working here, and he was coming into Bongos all the time. Then I didn't see him for years, and he'd moved back to Canada. Then he came back on a trip to London, and we kicked it, and he hit me up, we kicked it, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, yeah, I'm starting to get into music management. And I was like, okay, I've got this young group, I think you'd be into them. I was like, all right, I mean, yeah, it's cool. I got a few other artists. I was like, all right, cool, like that. And he was managing Bad Bad Not Good, and he still is, right? So I basically ended up having Bad Bad Not Good, sleeping on my front room, all three of them at the time, So it was Chester, Alex, and Matty at the time, who were the group. They were a trio. Now they've got Leland in there. Matty's left, but it's all whatever, it's the dynamics. But at that point, and I had them kipping on a thing, and I was kicking with Matt, and Matt was going blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And he was working. Prior to that, he was working at a store called Goodfoot, which is a sneaker store in Toronto. And there was another store that was associated with, which is a streetwear store called Nomad. And I think there's another store as well, run by a guy called Matt George, right? And who's still very, very in the mix these days within the streetwear scene. But I digress. So the thing is, what was one thing that Canada is known for is its clothing manufacturing, particularly sweats and crews and tees, which is why the good Supreme ones are made by CYC, which is a Canadian factory in Canada. Right, and Matt George had links to that place, and one thing that happened was Kanye West was about to drop Pastel. Pastel's production was going to be handled by Matt George and his links to that, right? And it meant that Goodfoot had boxes of Yeezys at one point. We're talking about the Nike ones, right? The first ones, boxes and boxes and boxes. Now, Matt knew I was into sneakers, and we're just kicking. He goes, yeah, you got the Yeezys. And that. I go, no, couldn't get them. I was like, what do you mean? I couldn't get them. I couldn't get the shoes. And he was like, oh, why didn't you ask me? Well, I wish you'd asked me, because I had loads of them. I could have got you every one of the colors. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well, don't worry about it. You snooze, you lose. He goes, what size are you anyway? I go, I'm a size US 9. He goes, really? I go, yeah. And he goes, okay. I've got a pair. In a US 9 left, got one pair left. I was like, no. He goes, yeah. Only thing is, they're in Flight Club in New York. And I was like, don't worry about it. Make your money. I was like, no. You have to have those shoes. You of all people have to have those shoes. He rang up his boy, right, Chase Whitaker. Chase Whitaker at the time was working for Converse, but he was based in New York and Boston in New York or whatever, right? And he hit up Chase. He goes, yo, can you go to Flight Club, get those shoes out of there, and he goes, yeah, sure, no problem. Then Matt goes back to me and he goes, yo, the shoes are waiting for you in New York when you next go. And when you next go, hit up Chase, and you guys link, he's good peoples, and we'll make it happen. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay. Anyway, I go to New York because I'm going on trips for the streetwear stuff, right? For straight up distribution. I hit up Chase, we meet up for coffee, and we kick it, and he's such a good dude. And then at that point, I'd forgotten about we're meeting up. Do you know what I mean? He goes, oh, when we're going to leave, he goes, oh, forget it, yo, this is why we're meeting. Pulls out the bag, and in the bag are the Yeezys, and it's the light cream brown ones with the pink pop, which I think are the best color out of the three. And I was just like bugging out, and I've still got them to this day. They ain't going nowhere. Yeah,
have you even worn them out?
I wore them. Yeah, I wore them a couple of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob,
I wore them. The last time I wore them was to the Lil Wayne party. No, it was the Lil Wayne or the Birdman party that was in the Corn Exchange or the Royal Exchange in London And I wore them to that. Yeah, because I wanted to flex. Do you know what I mean? I have to, no, hardly anyone's got them shoes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fakes, but yeah, I was bugged out. So yeah, so those are the two particular things that really do come to mind. But there's been numerous ones, but they're the early ones.
They're the main ones.
No, I said
yeah. What about the Adidas's, the leathered out Adidas's? Did you ever get to wear them?
Still got them. Never wearing them. No, they ain't getting worn.
Never wearing them.
That's heirloom business. Do you know what I mean? You can't buy those shoes. You can't buy those shoes. I can go online now. I can get a pair of off-white Jordan 1s. I can get blah blah blah. You can get the Yeezys, yes. The Adidas's, no. You ain't getting those. You ain't getting those. You know what I mean?
That's amazing, man. So in terms of because I know you've had obviously the privilege of designing trainers at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of, like, for example, if Adidas or Nike was to acquire your services, have you ever thought about what type of trainer you would design if given the freedom to do so?
Maybe the new model that hasn't come out. I'd want to go future. I think I want to see what they got coming out, and I want to flip it. That's what I'd want to do. That's exciting. Doing something different. The retro stuff, yes, it's great. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. I mean, I did my own version of the Puma Suede, Puma States 10 years ago as part of the Shadow Society, which I've only just realized is pretty significant, because if I'd done it 10 years ago, it would mean that I was the first person of Indian origin to work with a major sneaker brand on a collaboration, which is quite mad, which I've only found out, which I only considered when I was doing my most recent one. Well, this is the only second one I've done, all the kangaroos that just came out, the cherry maples I did with Sneaker Queen. But yeah, when you think about it, yeah, that was great. It was great to just like really elevate it, because the thing is, I was able to put Gore-Tex for the first time in a Puma Suede, because they didn't consider it before. I go, I want to be able to rock Puma States in the rain, because we live in the UK. Can you make that happen? And they hadn't even conceived of it before, and then he did it. Do you know what I mean? And then my boy Getro, who was also part of Shadow Society, he decided to put Gore-Tex in his as well. You know what I mean? He did these bluey purple joints. But I did it all red, little burnt orange pops, and a solid gum sole. Do you know what I mean? Those Puma Suedes, they're waterproof. So yeah, I did that over 10 years ago. And then yeah, I mean, boom. But yeah, if someone was to come with me now, I'd want to do something future. I'd want to see what is coming out and how I could mess with it. So say like when the Vapor Max was coming out, 4 years ago, whenever it was, God, you know what I mean? Time's dilated a little bit. But if I'd been offered that shoe, I'd be like, I want to do that, and I want to do some mad things with it. Do you know what I mean? And the same applies now. So yeah, I'd love to work with a new shoe, be a new basketball shoe or a new whatever, and just see where we can take it. That would be exciting. That would really be exciting. Yeah, that's great
incredible question. Man. That's incredible, man. So obviously you've said like one day you'd like to display your collection somewhere. Yeah. And would you consider that the end game for you, or what would you say is the Kish Kash legacy when it's all said and done?
Not for me to determine. Do you know what I mean? If it happens, it happens. Do you know what I mean? I just want to do my bit. I'm just going to continue doing my bit. That's the important thing. And hopefully mentoring a few other new people's in the mix. That's important. That's what I want. I want people to have learned something, and I want to learn. I'm continually learning every day, and I hope I learn, something new at every moment of my given, existence on this planet, in this universe. Do you know what I mean? Because it's infinite. So I want to explore as much of infinity as possible. Do you know what I mean? That's relevant to me, because you just go on myriad of tangents, etc., and you just never get anywhere. But I wish to explore as much as possible.
Yeah. And a little bonus question, I'd say, what would you say has been the biggest innovation in trainers technology for you?
Ooh, wow. The biggest innovation hasn't happened yet. I would say, actually, though, to be honest, it's probably where we're at right now. The Alpha Fly right, that Nike have done, that got banned and then unbanned. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
What it can do is phenomenal. I've a couple of pairs of that shoe, and oh man, with the Zoom X, you know, midsole and the carbon plate, and the way that the shoe can propel you, it's a significant advance, a very, very significant advance, you know, in that regard. You could argue that, or you could argue when it was the upper, when Adidas came out with Prime Knit, or developed Prime Knit, but Nike beat them to the punch and came out with Fly Knit before Prime Knit hit the shelves. Typical, do you know what I mean? Adidas can be a little bit too stayed in their way, you know, too much R&D, research and development, just get it out there. Nike would just like, yo, boom, straight out the gate with Fly Knit. Fly Knit was very revolutionary. You know, we take it for granted now how, you know, a shoe is manufactured like that, and how light it is and how supportive it is. But, you know, prior to that, you know, you're looking at, you know, old school techniques, really, do you know what I mean, to do that. But yeah, they're very, very significant advances, I'd have to say, you know. Yeah, definitely. I think that's right. Oh no, actually, scrap all that. The most significant advance in sports manufacturing, sports footwear manufacturing, is 3D printing.
Really?
Being able to, yeah, we will soon be able to print our own shoes.
Wow.
Yeah, when you look at the Adidas 4D shoe, that's made out of a process where they shine a laser onto a material, and then it creates that material that creates that pattern within the sole, and it's super light and super responsive. But yeah, 3D printing, I think, might be the way things are going to go forward, especially in terms of maybe the upper, you know, knitting an upper together, boom, 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 and 3D printing a sole and bonding it together, and also in a sustainable way. Sustainability is the key issue. That is the most pressing issue that's facing us right now as humans, because we are destroying the environment, and we have to stop destroying the environment. So when a shoe comes out, when shoes are coming out, you know, the Adidas Parley Ultra Boost as well, which is made out of the recycled plastics reclaimed from the oceans, fantastic initiative. You know, all the eco brands that have been doing stuff for years, fantastic, but most of them look butters, right? The shoes. So the thing is, you know, let's be real. But when we're seeing, you know, brands now taking it, you know, the Move to Zero, you know, initiative from Nike, they want to become a carbon neutral company eventually. Whether it gets achieved or not, we'll see. There's always an imbalance, no matter how hard you try. But try to reduce the negative impact we have is the key. And the same with what Adidas is doing with Parley and so on and so forth, and all the other brands are following suit as well. You know, it's fantastic. That for me is the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. And I definitely want to get a quick word from you about the stuff, because you're speaking about in the environment, the stuff you're doing with SpareMax.
Oh, yeah,
people donating trainers.
Yeah, I mean, you know, not the first to get people to give, you know, used shoes and to charity, but it's very important. You know, Nike have done it, you know, where they've tried to recycle the soles, etc., and then that's how they got regrind and put them into basketball courts and all that kind of thing, which outdoor basketball courts, which is fantastic. But yeah, you know, I want to shout out my boy Drew Wolf and the team at Mother. We all did it together. And it was a riposte to Air Max Day. Air Max Day is about consumption, get new Air Maxes. You know, this is the day of Air Max, blah, blah, blah. It's great idea, fantastic idea, you know, and it's brilliant. But it's also, okay, now what about your spare Airs? Do you know what I mean? Spare Max Day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, let's get your spare Airs off you, and let's polish them up and then give them to those in need, which we did via Brixton Soup Kitchen. And I got to shout out Solly and his whole team there as well. Do you know what I mean? Without them, the shoes would just be sitting with us still. And he got them to the people that matters. And yeah, it's a full team effort, really is, and full credit due. And we really want to bring that back as well. Once things are more conducive to interaction, you know, we'll bring it back.
Man, that's amazing. So if people want to stay up to date with the developments of that thing, where can we tell the people where can we send them?
Ooh, well, we did have the Spare Max Day account, but I can't log into it anymore. I don't know why. I'm going to see if we can try to log into it, but we'll just set it up again. We'll just set up another one. But right now, just follow my channel. I'll announce anything on my channel, really. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, which is Kish Kash 1 on Instagram. Yeah. So yeah.
Kish Kash one on Instagram, man. Man, Kish Kash, I want to officially thank you. And I know, and like you said, man, the best thing about part one, there'll definitely be a part two. So I know there's so much more we could discuss, and there's so many more questions I want to ask you as well. But we definitely have to save that for next time, man. And obviously, you know, appreciate everything that you do, man. And thank you for being an absolute legend. And I really do hope that we get a book from you at some point, you know, in the future. That'd be amazing, you know.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you so much, Scan. Thank you for the opportunity, bro. Do you know what I mean? And I really do love what you're doing and how you're doing it. Connoisseurs of hip hop, yo, that's the most apt description. Seriously, it is. Do you know what I mean? And what you've done and how you've mentored people and how you're, you know, inspiring people as well and how you're putting on people. It's absolutely fantastic. Seriously, man. And I wish you all the best with that, my friend. Do you know what I mean? Really do.
Much appreciated, brother. Much appreciated, man. So officially, I want to thank you for joining us on the Head to Head platform. And so until next time, my brother, much respect, much love, and peace.
Blessings, peace and love, man.